All right, so we are using our handy dandy ribbon tool. This is super high tech, very expensive, and obviously you cannot get this one anywhere but Miss Gemmel. What you're going to do is you're going to hold it and you're going to draw a ribbon, but you're not going to turn your pencils like this. You're going to keep them straight, and as you go, you're going to curve up and then curve down. And this time, see how I'm going back and my pencils are staying parallel? And as I go up and down, I'm creating the curves of my ribbon. I can do a loop-de-loop, okay? And then I can finish it off. The key is that I don't want to turn this way trying to create the forms, because that will make it look incorrect. What I'm gonna do now is, now that I have these double lines, I have to make my ribbon solid. So I'm gonna add a straight line to all these weird transparent sections. And then I'm gonna have to erase areas where it looks transparent. So right here I have my ribbon coming up. If I want this loop to look like it's going over, I have to erase that little line there. And I'm just gonna redraw it really carefully. Okay, erase this little line. This is where you have a little bit of choice in terms of what parts you want to erase. Like if I erase this section, now it's going to look like the ribbon is on, this part of the ribbon is on top of this other part of the ribbon. Erase that. Okay. Now I've got to finish my ribbon off with little ends on both sides. And now I can start to figure out where are my highlights. So if my light source is up here, highlights are going to be on the top parts of curves and parts where maybe it's bending the other direction. This may not be as light as these really bright highlights, but there will still be a little bit of lightness. Darker values are going to be anywhere that the ribbon is tucking underneath, like here where it's going underneath another part of the ribbon, here where it's tucking under, and up here. Once I have these darkest and lightest places established, now I can start practicing my gradient value scale. So I know that I need to keep this section completely white, and I can start practicing shading from kind of a mid-gray. And as I go, I'm gonna lighten the pressure on my pencil so it's making less value till I get to that spot. And I'm gonna actually erase this line that I drew so you guys can see what it should look like. This pencil is not that easy to use this normal way. Somebody sold me a faulty ribbon tool. Now as I curve around, I leave this part white, but I'm gonna add a little bit of value to the other side as I curve around. And notice that I'm turning my paper rather than trying to shade in a direction that's not comfortable for my hand. The key is that if this is the darkest part of this part of the ribbon, I want this section here to be slightly lighter, this to be slightly darker, so I can see that overlap. Okay? If I need to erase and adjust, I can, but the one thing I'm not doing is blending with my finger. I'm using only the pressure of my pencil to create the values. So here, this is where I start from super dark, and I'm gonna start curving my pencil with the ribbon. So the ribbon is curving this way, so I'm sort of curving my shading marks. And remember, my light source is over here, so this is pretty dark. It's gonna be not as dark as it is right in that corner there. And as I curve it this way, I can kind of turn my paper to curve the other direction now. And here's where I again have an area where I want it to be kind of a mid to dark gray, so that this part where it's completely black will show up, and these two parts will look like they have two different values. Now I'm gonna be going quickly to a light area of my ribbon. So I need to be very controlled here and make sure that my value changes fairly quickly while still remaining fairly smooth. Okay, I'm gonna erase that little line I drew. Basically, you're practicing shading from light to dark. And I'm going to skip over the area where I'm going to make it completely white and add a really light gray value there. And then continue this way, getting darker and darker as I shade into this area. And this is another part of the ribbon where it's sort of turning away from me just a little bit. And it's also turning away from the light source. But as it comes back and up and around this curve, again, I'm going to be focusing on going back to a light value. Might darken this up just a little bit more. Once you've been using your pencil for a while, it's going to get a nice kind of chisel edge, which makes it easier to blend, easier to shade. And eventually you'll have this whole thing shaded in, going from light to dark, very smooth transitions. You don't want to shade going this way. It's going to make it look like it's not curving properly, and you're going to have lots of weird marks. Okay, that's it.